The Fox and the Bramble. A fox, hotly pursued by the hounds, jumped through a hedge, and his feet were sadly torn by a bramble that grew in its midst. He fell to licking his paws, with many a curse against the bramble for its unkind treatment. "Softly, softly, good words, if you please, Master Fox," said the bramble. "I thought you knew better than to lay hold of one whose nature is to lay hold of others." Lesson: never trust the untrustworthy. The Sheep Biter. A certain shepherd had a dog in whom he placed such great trust that he would often leave the flock to his sole care. As soon as his master's back was turned, however, the cur, although well-fed and kindly treated, used to worry the sheep and would sometimes kill one and devour a portion. The man at last found out how much of his confidence had been abused and resolved to hang the dog without mercy. When the rope was put around his neck, the dog pleaded hard for his life and begged his master rather to hang the wolf, who had done 10 times as much harm to the flock as he had. "That may be," replied the man sternly, "but you are 10 times the greater villain for all that. Nothing shall save you from the fate which your treachery deserves." Lesson: the most dangerous enemy is the one within. The Council of Horses. Once upon a time, a brash young colt, dissatisfied with the lot of his kind, complained loudly to the Council of Horses. "How abject is our race! Are we condemned to slavery and servitude because our sires so willingly bore the chain? Is it right that men should exploit our strength? Were we created only to serve their needs, dragging their plowshares, sweating in their harnesses, groaning beneath the loads they pile upon our backs? Reject the rein and spurn the spur. Let us be like the lion and the tiger and assert our claim to freedom and independence." Neighs of assent broke out amongst the assembled horses, and there was a great pawing of the ground in applause. But all were silenced when a steed of great age and long experience addressed the assembly thus: "When I had the health and strength of my youth, I toiled as you do. Now my grateful owner rewards my past pains by allowing me to roam freely and to feed on the crops yielded by the fields I once plowed. It is true that man expects us to lend our pains to his endeavors, but does he not divide his care through all our labors of the year? Does he not provide us with buildings to shield us from the inclement weather and to keep our hay dry? Does he not share with us the bounty of the harvest? Since it is decreed that all creatures should help one another, ought we not be happy with our lot?" Seeing the wisdom of what their elders said, the horses, previously fired by the young colt's discontent, agreed, and the tumult ceased. Lesson: those who know their station in life know the greatest contentment. The Cock and the Jewel. A hungry cock, scratching for food in the straw in the barnyard, happened to turn up a jewel. Feeling quite sure that it was something precious, but not knowing well what to do with it, he addressed it with an air of affected wisdom as follows: "You are a very fine thing, no doubt, but you are not at all to my taste. For my part, I would rather have 1 grain of good barley than all the jewels in the world." Lesson: a thing is of value only so far as it is of use. The Owl and the Grasshopper. An owl who was sitting in a hollow tree, dozing away a long summer's afternoon, was very much disturbed by a rogue of a grasshopper who kept singing in the grass beneath. So far, indeed, from keeping quiet or moving away at the request of the owl, the grasshopper sang all the more and called her an old blinker that only came out at nights when all honest people were gone to bed. The owl waited in silence for a short time and then artfully addressed the grasshopper as follows: "Well, my dear, if one cannot be allowed to sleep, it is something to be kept awake by such a pleasant little pipe as yours, which makes it most agreeable music, I must say. And now I think of it, my mistress Pallas gave me the other day a bottle of delicious nectar. If you will take the trouble to come up, you shall have a drop, and it will clear your voice nicely." The silly grasshopper, beside himself with the flattery, came hopping up to the owl. When he came within reach, the owl caught him, killed him, and finished her nap in comfort. Lesson: flattery works better than threats. The Lion in Love. A lion once fell in love with the fair daughter of a forester and demanded her of her father in marriage. The man dared not refuse, though he would gladly have done so, but he told the suitor that his daughter was so young and delicate he could consent only after the lion's teeth were drawn and his claws cut off. The lion was so enslaved by love that he agreed to do this without a murmur, and it was accordingly done. The forester then seized a club, laid him dead upon the spot, and so broke off the match. Lesson: foolish love brings sorrow. The Sow and the Wolf. A sow lay one day in the sty with her whole litter of pigs about her. A wolf, who longed for a small porker, but knew not how to get it, tried to worm himself into the good opinion of the mother. "How do you find yourself today, Mrs. Sow?" said he. "A little fresh air would certainly do you great good. Now, do go abroad and air yourself a little, and I will gladly mind your children till you return." "Many thanks for your offer," replied the sow. "I know very well what kind of care you would take of my little ones, but if you really wish to be as obliging as you pretend to be, you will not show me your face again." Lesson: services from strangers are to be suspected. The Thief and his Mother. A little boy who went to school stole one of his schoolfellow's books and took it home. His mother, so far from correcting him, took the book and sold it, and gave him an apple for his pains. In the course of time, the boy became a thief, and at last was tried for his life and condemned. He was led to the gallows, a great crowd of people following, and among them his mother weeping bitterly. Seeing her, he prayed the officers to grant him a favor of a few parting words with her, and his request was freely granted. He went to his mother, put his arm round her neck, and making as though he would whisper something in her ear, bit it off. Her cry of pain drew everybody's eyes upon them, and great was the indignation that at such times he should add another violence to his list of crimes. "Nay, good people," said he, "do not be deceived. My first theft was of a book, which I gave to my mother. Had she whipped me for it instead of praising me, I would not have come to the gallows now that I am a man." Lesson: spare the rod, spoil the child. The Fox and the Ape. Upon the decease of the lion, the beasts of the forest assembled to choose another king. The ape made so many grimaces and played so many antic tricks that he was elected by a large majority, and the crown was placed upon his head. The fox, envious of this distinction, seeing soon after a trap baited with a piece of meat, approached the new king and said with mock humility, "May it please your majesty, I have found on your domain a treasure to which, if you will deign to accompany me, I will conduct you." The ape thereupon set off with the fox, and on arriving at the spot laid his paw upon the meat. Snap went the trap, and caught him by the fingers. Mad with the shame and the pain, he called the fox a thief and a traitor. The fox laughed heartily, and going off said over his shoulder with a sneer, "You a king, and not understand a trap?" Lesson: those who cannot manage their own affairs are unfit to manage others. The Farmer and the Stork. A farmer set a net in his fields to catch the cranes and geese which came to feed upon the newly springing corn. He took several, and with them a stork, who pleaded hard for his life on the ground that he was neither a goose nor a crane, but a poor harmless stork. "That may be very true," replied the man, "but as I have taken you in bad company, you must expect to suffer the same punishment." Lesson: evil company proves more than fair professions.